The following episode of Dad vs. Daughter was made possible by a contribution from Eagle Griffin Games.
Railways of Nippon comes in two different flavors. If you don't already own Railways of the World, you can buy the standalone base game, which has everything you need to play the game. If you do already own the base game, you can get the expansion like what I have here. So let's talk about what is different between the expansion version and what you get with the base game. Might also have a special reviewer, as Railways of Nippon is our game of the week. The gameplay for Railways of Nippon and Railways of the World is the same. You're still building links between cities and you're delivering goods. Now, obviously, the biggest difference is the size of the map. The Railways of Nippon is a lot smaller. The other difference is we have different cards. Now, let's talk about what is the same and what is different between those two. So let's start off with the hotels. Now, each set, and when I say set, I'm going to talk about Railways of Nippon compared to the base game. They each have 6 hotels. Obviously, you're going to have new hotels here. Each set also has 4 of the city growth cards. Now, one of the main differences in the cards is the service bounty. In Railways of Nippon, you only have 2. You have these 2 here. In the base game, you actually have 6. Each also comes with 1 of the Railroad Era Begins and 1 of the Speed Records. And then we have 4 new industry in the base game, but you get 6 in the Nippon. That's how many new and different cards that we have between this and the base game. Now, the base game has Railroad Exec, Perfect Engineering, Government Land Grants, and a passenger line. So the new cards that we have for the Nippon expansion, we have the Shinbashi Station, which you're going to get points for recreating that. You've got Foreign Trade Posts, Ports, Boomtown, a couple of those. Local campaigns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those. Coal-fueled engines, which allow you to upgrade your engines at a cheaper cost, 3 of those. You have your Express, which is going to allow you to basically go through different towns without having to stop based on the color of the good that's being delivered. And then you have a couple of diplomatic relations, hot springs, 3 of those, and civil engineers. So those are all going to give you different types of abilities or points. The other difference is the Baron cards. So we have all new Baron cards for the Nippon expansion. We have 10 in the Nippon, whereas in the base game you had 12. So real quickly I'll show you these. Here's a good comparison between the score tracks. This is from the 10th anniversary of Railways of the World, and this score track is from the Nippon expansion. So you can see there's a huge difference in the box size between the base game and the expansion, because these basically are the same sizes as what the boxes are. You'll also notice this one goes up to 99, whereas the Nippon expansion only goes up to 80. You do get a few new tokens. You still get the normal looking first player marker, and then you can see that there are 4 alternate colors that you can have, because the Railways of Nippon, you can actually get it as a base game if you don't already have Railways of the World, and this shows the different colors that come with that. Now, because I only have the expansion, I have to use everything from the base game, which is the money, the bonds, the trains, and the good tokens. You do also get a bag of the empty city markers. These are the same ones that come with the 10th anniversary edition, so you can see they're the cow skull and the keep out sign. You also get a nice felt bag with Railways of the World stamped on there. Because it is only up to 4 players, you're going to get 4 of the player aid cards, and you will get the Railways of the World rulebook compendium that has rules for all of the different versions and expansions. So now that I've showed you what you get and what the differences are between the Railways of Nippon expansion and the base game of Railways of the World, let's get to what I think. As I've said in my review of Railways of the World, it is one of my all-time favorite games. In fact, it is my favorite railroad game of all time. The Railways of Nippon expansion I really like, especially at a lower player count. I've mainly played this with 3 players, so things are a little tighter because in the base game, you've got the entire eastern United States and the Midwest, so you can really kind of spread out. Here you can't, and you have a lot of the generic cities, so you're going to have to use those city growth cards in order to make these profitable so that you can deliver goods to them. The biggest problem I have with the new expansion really is the pronunciation of all the cities in Japan. But I really enjoy the tightness of the map. You've got the mountains with the ridges, so it's going to cost you more money when you're trying to build over there. But your routes or your links are a lot shorter too. Like, you know, here you've got 1 space between 3 different cities. You can also try to go around, go through the water here, build on that. You've got 4 spaces there. You're really going to be competing a lot more, and you're going to be using other players' links in order to deliver those goods as well. So I really enjoy this, especially, like I said, at the lower player count. I've not actually played this with 2, but like I said, I have played it mainly with 3 players, and I think it's going to be about the same. You could get to the point where one person plays on this side of the map and one person plays on that side of the map, and each kind of plays their own game. But you could also do that in the base game as well. At 4 players, which is the max on this, this is going to be extremely tight. It's going to be extremely cutthroat. And that's really good in this game because that really makes you think about how you're going to place your tracks, where you're going to place them to try to block other players, and try to get your tracks down before they do so that you don't end up having to pay them when you make a delivery. But all in all, this is a great expansion. Highly recommend this because, like I said, I really love the base game as well. But my buddy Chris is also going to tell you what he thinks of it.
Hi, this is Chris with a few thoughts on the Railways of the World Nippon expansion. If you watched the Dad vs. Daughter episode from last week where they reviewed the base game of Railways of the World, you'll know that it's one of my favorite games. It's a top 10 game for me. It's had a 10-year anniversary reprint, so it's a little bit on the older side compared to the new hotness that we always play, but it remains on my top 10 list. So with that in mind, the Nippon expansion keeps that basic rule set. In essence, it's bringing out a new map. I just thought I'd share a few thoughts on what the changes are from my perspective. So obviously with Eagle Griffin, you get the same quality that you're used to. All the printing is the same as the 10th anniversary edition. The rule set is exactly the same, but what really changes things is, number one, it's the map, and I'm not a geography expert. In fact, geography is one of my downfalls. So looking at a map of Japan, I honestly have no idea where cities are. So one of the intriguing things about this particular game was trying to figure out and having to read through the map every time I got a card that said, deliver to this city. I thought that was a fantastic ad for me because it meant that it's going to take a lot of plays before things become too programmatic for me. I'm not going to start with the same agenda every time. I'm not going to start with the same thing. It's going to take several plays before it becomes old to me. The other major thing is the cards. So while the basic concept of the cards are the same, there are a handful of cards that are different in this set. So number one is that you have this concept of local campaigns. And local campaigns is, instead of delivering to a city and getting points for that, you're going to get points when the cities are emptied. I liked that change of concept. I thought that added something new to the game for me. The next is the coal-fueled engines. It allows you to upgrade your engines at a cheaper cost. One of the major drawbacks, or one of the things that slows the base game down a little bit sometimes, is that expensive cost of upgrading your engines when you get into that $15,000-$20,000 range. So this allows you to get cards that potentially bring that cost down. I really liked that. The next one is the express cards. The express cards allow you to bypass the city of a color for delivery, so you don't have to deliver to the first blue city you come to. You could pass through that first blue city, and that allows you to get a longer string of, or a longer chain of cities that you're going through, and ultimately get more income from that. The reason that's helpful, as Tim would have explained on the board is much smaller. The cities are a lot closer together, so you're not going to have those long chains in between cities. And with it being a 4-player game instead, it becomes a much tighter game. So being able to deliver through those cities is going to allow you those longer delivery cycles, which is going to increase your income quite a bit. The next one is the diplomatic relations. I thought that was a good add as well, where when you deliver, you specifically are going to get a bonus if you deliver using yours and someone else's trains. Where in the base game, you want to avoid using someone else's delivery service as much as possible. You don't want to give them points. This one, you're going to get a little bonus if you do that. And again, I think it comes from that tight board, the constraint of the board size, that you're on top of other players so much more than in that expanded Eastern U.S. map on the base game. The last one is the hot springs. So the hot springs is going to push you to develop more in the mountains. It gives you bonus points for every time you build in a mountain area. So again, those that have played the game a lot know that those mountain spots, $4,000 to build on those mountain terrains is pretty expensive. So this kind of entices you to do that a little bit more. The last thing that's different, it's not really a new card set, it's more of a change. In the base set, you had the land grant cards that allowed you to build in open terrain for free on one turn. Now you have the civil engineers, where it becomes cheaper to build on water instead. Again, going back to the idea that the map is much smaller, much more contained, you don't have the need to build those long Midwestern branches that you had before. So pushing you to be able to build on water cheaper, I think was a good change. A little disappointing, the Baron cards are very similar to what they were in the previous, in the base game. But overall, I thought for just having a new map set, I thought the change in the cards really balanced that new map well, really added a lot to the game for me. So the base game remains on my top 10 list. This is absolutely an expansion that I would play, and I think it's very nice that Eagle Gryphon is offering it in 2 flavors. If you have the base game, you can just buy the map set. And if you don't have the base game, you can actually buy the Nippon version as a standalone that has all of the cities and all of the empty city markers. And so I think that was a really good choice on their part. So big thumbs up for me. Appreciate the time.
Thanks, Chris. So that is Railways of the World, the Nippon expansion. Like I said, I highly recommend this. This is great for the lower player counts, or if you just want to have a different map that offers different possibilities, different strategies and so forth. So highly recommend this, and we will catch you guys next time.
If you would like to support us, you can visit patreon.com/dadvdaughter.
Like and follow us on Facebook to stay current on our show schedule, sneak peeks at future shows, and to interact with us.